What's it like being a female expat living in Asia? Why is it that my channel's been so quiet for the last couple of weeks? And what's the plan for the future with this channel? Well, if those questions or anything about the expatriate experience for a woman are of interest to you, it is great to have your company. My name is Wendy, and for more than 3 decades, I've lived and worked in 5 different countries in Asia. And I still live and work in Asia, these days in Thailand. And the channel has been a bit quiet for a few weeks. Part of that is to do with the fact that I actually went on holiday to Japan, and I'll talk more about that in a minute. And the other reason is for kind of the same reason that I think a lot of new channels go through, which is after you've been filming for a little while, you start to question if you're going in the right direction and what you want the future of the channel to be. So today I want to talk a little bit about that, and hopefully I won't waffle on. I have thought about what I wanted to say, but I haven't scripted anything. So really this is just a little conversation from me to you from the heart about what's going to happen with the Female Expat channel and why it is that I actually stopped filming for a little while. Now, some people may be aware that since I started the channel, I've been interviewed twice, very kindly, on 2 other channels. One of them is Hua Hin Today, which is by a lovely man called Jonathan Fairfield. He's the editor of the local newspaper in the town that I live in Thailand. And he was starting up his podcast. He knew that I'm starting up a podcast. So we got together. We had a really great interview about, what the channel was and what it is like to be a female expat in Asia. And that went well. Everything was sweet. And then I was reached out to by another great guy called Brendan, and his channel is called the Fruiting Body Podcast, and quite a successful channel. And he focuses around more things like what it's like to live in Thailand, what it's like for guys to live in Thailand, the pros and the cons and all that kind of thing. And to be perfectly honest with you, he has a slightly younger demographic to me and a different demographic to me, but he kindly reached out, asked if I'd come and do an interview with him. And I did. And for both of these gentlemen who approached me, I'm truly, truly grateful, because not only did it give me an opportunity to talk about my channel, but it actually broadened my kind of horizons as to what was out there and the people who would come to see my channel. The first interview was kind of mild, I would say, and I went in, all very positive. It was all very nice. The second interview was also a really, really great interview. I like Brendan very much. I like his approach and the way that he does things. But the demographic is slightly different, and Brendan has a great system where he set up a whole lot of shorts, and quite a few of those shorts went viral, and I'm talking like 157,000 views plus for some of those shorts. And they were cutting edge because in that interview, I was a little bit more candid, shall we say. I understood that his demographic are not interested in the be-all and end-all about how to buy bras when you have a big chest like me in Asia. He was looking for something a little bit more cutting edge, and I'm okay with that. So that's what we went with. And the snippets, the little shorts, he picked the sort of salacious parts and he put them out on air, and they had the kind of response that he would have wanted, and that were fun for me as well. I want to say off the bat that I am not easily harmed by other people's opinions. At my age and with my background in media and theatre, I am fully aware of the fact that opinions are like assholes. Everybody's got one. So it takes a lot for me to be upset. And Brendan was worried, actually, that because there were some kind of spicy comments about some of the things I'd said from guys, always from guys who have no real idea of what it's like to be a female expat in Asia, he thought that they may have upset me, and that's why I'd gone dark. But that's not the case. It's certainly not the case. The other thing I know for sure in life is that I never take criticism from people that I don't go to advice for. And if you haven't embraced that yet, can I encourage you to do that? If somebody criticizes you, criticism is easy. People who put themselves out there, it's hard. People who lead, it's hard. And armchair warriors and keyboard warriors and people pointing out how I should do things are not important to me unless there's someone that I respect that I would go to and ask them for advice. So it wasn't that. It was just that I was at a crossroads as to what I was going to do next. And part of that crossroads was a funny personal thing that I'd like to share with you. So I grew up in a not great household. I did not get a lot of support. I only had a mum, a single mum, which is lucky actually, because the man that she married as my stepfather was physically and sexually abusive. So I was really pleased when that marriage fell apart, to be perfectly honest with you. But it wasn't a great upbringing. And in the back of my mind, now don't be sad for me, I've gotten through that therapy, blah, 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 and I'm in a good place. But part of that upbringing was, who do you think you are? That voice, who do you think you are? That was my thing. And I was born with a good level of intelligence. I did well in school, but I always had that doubt. Even from a young age, I've always put myself out there. I was a public speaker and a debater from a very young age. Like I said, I went into the media on radio. I then went into theatre directing. I've performed a lot. I've done a lot of leadership teaching, coaching, and corporate stuff. And to this day, I still work in the communications field, slightly differently now with a resort, but still in the communications area. So I'm okay with putting myself out there. But simply because I look confident doesn't mean that I necessarily always walk the talk, if you know what I mean. If you're somebody like me who shows the world a particular face but has a secret gremlin inside that sometimes says to themselves, that voice from the past that says, who do you really think you are? Who do you think you are? Then you'll get what I'm saying. Because after a few months on the channel where I was picking up, good numbers and people were interacting, I started to think, who am I to tell people about this stuff, and what should I tell them? Because the truth of the matter is, a lot of my videos so far have been about things like how to import a pet, what it's like to put kids through international schools, what's some of the shopping that you need to do before you become a female expat, what are some of the things that I miss, how do you make friends as an expat, and these are all how-to types of videos. And I don't have a problem with that, because honestly, I have been doing this for coming on for 4 decades, and I do know that information. But once I sort of said that, I thought, well, what's next? Do I share more about my life, my actual life as a female expat? And if I did, who cares? Who do you think you are? That little voice got into my head, and it didn't break me down, but it did make me stop in my tracks. I thought, what do I want this channel to be? Is it about Wendy and her day-to-day life, or is it about helping other females, particularly women of my age? So I'm in my 50s. I'm traveling solo these days. I'm divorced. I have been for a long time. So is it for women like me who are, looking for information, or is it actually about a little bit about my life as well? And so I stopped, and it coincided with the time that I was going on holiday anyway, so I thought this will be a nice break. So the holiday that I took, I only get 12 days off a year in my job, but in Thailand there are 17 public holidays per year, so I managed to kind of finagle my holiday around Songkran so that I could expand my holiday a bit. And believe it or not, after more than 30 decades in this region, I'd never been to Japan. I've been to lots of countries. I've been to probably about 27 or 28 countries in my life, either on holiday or living in a place. And I love all of them. I fall in love every single time I go on holiday, except for Belarus. I will never live in Belarus. But this time I went to Japan. I'd never been to Japan before, and everybody kept saying how amazing it was. I was like, yeah, I'll go there eventually. So I went to Japan, and if you haven't been, oh my God, you must go. It is fantastic, to the point where I wondered if I'd made a terrible mistake leaving Hong Kong, which is the country that I lived in for 16 years before I came to Thailand, thinking I shouldn't have come to Thailand. I should have gone to Japan. That's what I should have done. Of course, actually, realistically, back in the day, that wouldn't have worked. Japan is, unfortunately for them, in a bit of an economic crisis right now. That is fortunate if you're outside of Japan. It's not as expensive as it used to be, and Japan is next level excellent. So going through all this crisis, had a little bit of a holiday, did one bit of filming because I knew that some guys were like, this woman, she says all this stuff about, women and blah, 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 blah. She doesn't know what she's talking about. So I had a little bit of a bite back. Like I said, not damaged by any of it. In fact, I think it's hilarious. I think it's hilarious to have older Western men tell me what my opinions are about bar girls. Thanks, guys. But anyway, so I did that. And then I came back, and I've only been back for just a week and a bit. And I still had a bit of a crisis about what I wanted the channel to be and what I wanted to have happen next. So I went to dinner with a very dear friend of mine the other night, and I confessed to her, which is hard for me because I'm pretty independent, and I said to her, but I trust her, she's one of my brain's trust, she is someone I go to advice for, and I said, what do you think? what is this channel about? I mean, all I can hear is my mother's voice saying, who do you think you are? Nobody cares. Nobody cares about that. So I said to her, what do you think? And she said, well, why can't you have, like, in a month, why can't you have 2 videos that are like here are the facts and this is how you do things, and 2 videos a month that are more personal? And, for all of my so-called intelligence, for all of my experience, that had not occurred to me. That had never occurred to me. It had never occurred to me that I could do both, that I could combine them. And then I thought about the women that I watch on YouTube. Now, there's a lady, I've just forgotten her name, but she's absolutely fantastic, and I've fallen in love with her channel. She lives in Wakayama, I think it's called, in Japan. She's younger than me, but a middle-aged person who moved to Japan, and this is my current obsession. I'm not going anywhere, by the way. I'm staying in Thailand, but this was my obsession. And she sometimes talks about the basics of living in Japan, and then she talks about her life in Japan as well. I thought, oh yeah, I follow her, and she does both. There's a soap maker that I watch who actually got me into soap making. I only make like glycerin soaps, but she's a young, quite religious American woman. There's this great channel. What is her soaping company is called? I've just forgotten what it's called, but anyway, it's absolutely brilliant. And she talks about making soap, and sometimes she talks about her life. And I thought, there's another one. Who I follow who does that. So I realised that that's okay. But having said that, I do want to get your feedback on this. Do you think that this is the right approach? If I did, let's say, every other week, a sort of a more personal, here I am shopping, this is what it's like, this is the day-to-day of living as a female expat in Thailand, in particular, because that's where I live now, and another one that sort of is a little bit more fact-based and a little bit more advisory, if you like, because I think that's how I'm going to do it, because I got trapped. I was thinking that it had to be either or, and I was wondering if anybody would care to know about my day-to-day, and then I was also wondering, how much advice can I give? So this is kind of where I've fallen, and I would so appreciate if you would comment below to let me know if that's the right approach to take. Normally I'm pretty confident about knowing what I want to do, but I am doing this channel for the benefit of others as well, and I'm hoping that that's the right approach, that's the approach that I should take to this channel moving forward. Since I've been away with Brendan and Jonathan's help, I have had a lot more subscribers, so if you're new, I'm sorry, this is your first new video, sort of psychotic, rambly, what's going on with my life type video. I do apologize. Please go to the backlog and look at some more advice things if that's what you want. But I'm super, super grateful to both of those guys. I will interview with those guys again. It was fun. It's always good to meet other YouTubers who are sort of doing the thing and understanding their audience as well. And so that's it, really. That's where I am. I'm going to go forward with the channel. I was always going to go forward with the channel. I just wasn't sure how. Now I think I've got a bit of a plan. So with my new subscribers, hello and welcome to you, with my new kind of pathway forward, with that gremlin of self-doubt sort of gone back to its chair and having a lay down, I think this is what we're going to do. Thank you so much for listening to me as I ramble through my thoughts. I hope you are having a wonderful, wonderful week. Do look at airfares to Japan for heaven's sakes. I'm actually planning a girls' weekend, a long girls' weekend with some mates, one of whom I work with. So we're having to finagle it around public holidays again to go back to Japan. That's how amazing it was. And in the meantime, you have yourself a great, great day. Oh, don't forget to like and subscribe. If you have not subscribed, please do subscribe. The algorithm really, really loves it, and I will love you for it. Thank you so much. Have a great day. Bye-bye.